Alright, well welcome back to A320 Flight Sim. Right now we're on part 3 of our series of our flight from Phoenix to Seattle. And we're on that last part where we're going to do our approach, descent, and landing into Seattle. And then we'll taxi to the gate and do the complete shut-off of all the systems so that we get the aircraft completely back down to unpowered again. So thanks for sticking with us. Really appreciate the support that I've had so far. Hope you enjoy this last video in the series. So right now we're just a little bit over 300 miles outside of Seattle. We've started onto the arrival, and so we've got just a few little housekeeping items, and then we're going to pause until we get closer to the airfield. So, but what we do is need to get some information, because when we get to the actual approach, there's some information we're going to need to feed into our computer, and it kind of goes fast when we get to that approach. There's not much time, and so you don't have time to look it up. And so this is a good time to do it. One of the things we need to think about is what our top of descent is. And when I look here at our PFD, you'll see, if we want to zoom this out a little bit, we're still a little ways away. We're still a couple hundred miles away from our top of descent. So we'll get our information here, and then I'll probably wait until we get to that point, and then we'll resume the video at that point. But right now I need to go ahead and get some information. One of the things is for the descent phase, for the approach phase, I'm going to need to get the information from the ATIS from Seattle. So I need to know what the information is, and it's going to be information Papa is what I'm looking at right now. So I'm just taking some notes on this so I have that. I can see that I've got winds from 140 degrees at 5 knots. I need to know that temperature, which is 8 degrees Celsius. And I need to know the QH, my 30.06 QH. That's everything I need from there. The other thing I need to do is, this is most likely going to be a Category 1 approach. We have clear weather, so we're not going to have to worry about a Cat 2 or Cat 3. So I'm going to look at my chart for runway 34 left, because we're doing an ILS approach on runway 34 left, and I'm going to go ahead and look at the Category 1 approach. You won't be able to see this on your screen because I'm looking at a chart on my other screen. What I'm looking for here is for the radial altimeter for the decision height. Okay, so the decision height, not the radial altimeter, the decision height. The decision height is 529 feet. So I need that information too. This is the point where if we're going to abort our landing, that's the lowest we can go. Below that, we got to keep calling. Now, there's two different numbers that you can get from that. You can get a decision height, which is 529. And if you're doing a Category 2 or Category 3 landing, which is in kind of bad weather, then your number is a little bit different. That's where you're going to use the radio altimeter reading. So that's the actual radio where you are above the actual ground level, as opposed to a decision altitude, which is a measurement of that barometric pressure that we have on our flight computer here. So those are the two different ones. I'm positive this is going to be a Cat 1 landing. If I wasn't sure, I'd go ahead and write down both numbers, but because in the simulator you can set the weather however you want, and I'd set it for a nice sunny day, because I wanted to show off Seattle a little bit. I know it's going to be a Cat 1 landing, so I'm going to go ahead. So now that I have all that information, I can get back to my flight. I can just, I'm going to check my charts a little bit more. I just like to review little things. I like to review the runway chart, kind of look at where my exits are. So when I land and they give me instructions to exit at taxiway, Echo, or Zulu, or whatever it might be, that I kind of know what they're talking about. So kind of take a look at those, review those. I like to review the different flight levels that I'm going to need to descend to. Like, for instance, I know that my first descent point is going to be that battleground, so BTG on my screen here. I'm looking at the PFD. Let me zoom back out a little bit farther if you can see it. Yeah, it's too far out for me to look at right now. But the first waypoint where we need to descend to is the battleground waypoint, and I'm going to need to be at flight level 240. So when we get a little bit closer there, we're going to descend from 38,000 to 24,000, or 38,380, flight level 380 to flight level 240. And then at the end of my arrival, I need to be down to 6,000 feet. So what I'm going to do is I'll end up setting my setting my autopilot, to that 6,000 feet, because I'm going to want to descend from 38,000 to 6,000. Air traffic control might step you down sometimes. They might only give you clearance to certain of those waypoints. I'm going to go ahead and bring it all the way down to 6,000, and I'm going to show you, though, that we have altitude constraints along the way, and that the aircraft and the computer is going to stop me if I try to go below those points, so that's okay. And then I'm also likely to review the actual ILS approach, look at some of those numbers that I need to know there on what my heights are at some of the different waypoints. I don't memorize them, but I try to get a really good look at them and try to remember kind of just for the most part about where I need to be, so that if something happens during that approach and landing, I have some of that thing with me. The other thing I like to write down too is also, what do you do on a missed approach? That's something you want to plan for. So I'll make some notes on that on my notepad too as well. I'm looking at the chart right now. It says if you miss your approach. So if we have to go around for some reason, we're going to climb to 900 feet. We're going to turn left on a heading to 300, and then we're going to go outbound until we get to the VOR, and then we're going to cross Wexeb at or above 3,000. And then climb to 5,000 outbound. So there's a lot of information there. The big thing we need to do, though, it's going to be most important right away if we have to do a go around, is we need to climb to 900, turn left to 300. That's going to be really important that we know that we need to do that right away. That's step one if we have to abort that landing and do a go around. And then after that, I can start looking at where I need to go to next, but that's going to be the most important thing. So, all right, we've got a little bit of time. We've got about another 130, 140 miles till we hit that top of descent. And actually, I'm going to come back before that because I don't like to wait till the last second on the top of descent. And then we'll take a look at where we need to go from there. So, hang with us. Be right back. Okay, we're back. We're about that 38, flight level 380 still. And you can see we're getting close to that top of descent. That battleground is where I need to be at 24,000. We're 40 miles out from that. I need to start descending now. So I'm going to go up here to this, and I'm going to go ahead and descend, like I said, to 6,000, which is the end point. And the start point also of my approach. I'm going to dial it in. And you can see now it shows me here in descent mode. And you're going to see that I'm slowly starting to descend. You can see the green line going down, showing my vertical speed is descending. And you'll see the little, the purple down here at the bottom where it says FL240. That is because the first waypoint of battleground here is flight level 240. I'm not supposed to go below flight level 240 at battleground. So it's in purple because it's a constraint. And that means that the aircraft is not going to let me go below 24,000, flight level 24,000, excuse me, flight level 240. If I took it off autopilot, I could manually fly it under that, but as long as I've got it on autopilot and I have the computer controlling the flight, it is not going to allow it to go below that flight level. It's a flight constraint. And so you can see there's other constraints. So what I'm going to do is push this button right up here. This is CSTR, which is a constraint button now. Kind of according to checklists, that's not something we need to do right now, but we're going to do it so you can just kind of see. Now you can see those constraints that pop up on the screen there. Battleground has a plus FL240, which means I need to be above flight level 240 when I cross that waypoint. You see the next one, Patera, plus FL220. I need to be above flight level 220 when I cross that waypoint. And then if I zoom out a little bit, that's too far, sorry. When you zoom out too far, it's not going to show you all those things, but as I get closer and closer, you're going to see more additional waypoints popping up, and they'll show you if there's any flight level constraints. What it will also show you is if there are any speed constraints, and so they will also automatically slow down to those speeds to make sure that we are not going too fast. All right, we're going to pause here for a minute. We've got quite a bit of descending to do. It's going to take a little bit. We've got a good easily 10 minutes here before we get to where we got something kind of important to do. We're going to just keep following this path. We're going to slowly descend along this arrival route, and then the next really kind of big thing that we're going to talk about is when we get a little bit closer to 10,000 feet, or we start getting a little bit closer to that arrival, the approach. So when we get a little bit closer to that, we'll bring it back to it. So you're not just sitting here watching the plane go down. Go down, it's bad words. Watch the plane descend would be a better way of saying that. So we'll just pause for a little bit and we'll be right back. Alright, we're back. One of the things I wanted to stop here real quick is we've now descended below flight level 180. And if you remember from the previous video, when we get to that 18,000 feet, that's where we need to reset our barometer, because at 18,000 feet, above that is a flight level 180, and everybody's on that same standard 29.92. But here below, we need to set whatever the altimeter is to the local. And we know that from that ATS that we checked earlier, that the barometer here for Seattle right now is 30.06. So we're going to go on up here to that. We're going to take it off of standard by pushing in, and then we're going to dial that back to 3006. Now that we're below flight level 180. So we're going to keep descending. You can see now there's a lot more marks here. We've got several waypoints with a lot of different constraints. You can see our first one we're about to hear here is Hawks. We're supposed to be above 12,000, which we're definitely going to be at. You see the big purple dot there, and also that we have a 270 knot constraint. So our speed over here on the left side, the speed tape over here, you're going to see that purple triangle is going to go down to 270 knots once we hit that waypoint. Then we've got a couple more waypoints you can see where we've got some, we've got one that's a little bit different there, Foot. Foot has two different numbers there. It has a minus 12,000 and a plus 10,000. So now that's not just being above Hawks. So at Hawks above 12,000, we can be anywhere above 12,000 really. There's obviously safety there of being able to descend at a safe rate. But then at the Foot one, they specifically want us above 10,000 and below 12,000. So we need to be between those two. Now the purple circle surrounding that waypoint means that the computer is anticipating that we will make that constraint. So right now, for instance, at Hawks, it's purple because it's saying we are going to be above 12,000 feet when we get to Hawks, because we're only like 2.5 miles from it. And it's anticipating that when we get to Foot, we will be between 10,000 and 12,000 feet, and that we will be slowed down to 250 knots as well. So we've got three different things going on at that one waypoint. You can see over here on our speed tape now, our purple triangle is now at 270 knots because that's our speed constraint that we just hit. I'm not touching the throttles. That's the one thing on the Airbus. Once you get up to that initial part of the climb where you go into that lever climb, you don't touch the throttles. I will not touch the throttles between that lever climb and the initial climb, and when I throw these things into full reverse when we hit the ground, when we land. Sorry, I shouldn't say hit the ground. I really misspeaking here, making it sound bad. When we land, we don't throw them into. Other than that, it's managed speed. The computer is controlling the speed the entire time, and I don't have to do anything. We just leave it in that climb detent. So we're going to keep hitting these waypoints. You can see another couple of things on here. One of the things, if you look up there about the middle screen with that 20-mile little mark, you see Sounder, SONDR. That is the end of our arrival and the beginning of our approach. And you can see the little white arrow that is angled off to the right and angled down. That is where the computer is anticipating that we're going to hit the 6,000 foot mark that we have set on our flight computer, which is what we wanted to descend to. So we're right on the mark, is putting us right on Sounder at 6,000 feet, right where we want to be. And at that point, we should be able to start looking at capturing the localizer, capturing the glide slope, and getting on the slope there for our ILS approach into Seattle. So we're getting there. We're almost down to 10,000 feet now. I'm going to reduce down to 20 miles on FD here so that we can see things a little bit better. We're not so cramped together. So you can see that my vertical speed here over there is only about 500 feet right now because it's not wanting me to descend too fast because I have to stay above 10,000 feet until I get to Foot, and that's only in another half nautical mile. So after that, now it's saying, okay, you're fine. But again, you can see that purple triangle is now down to 250 knots because we hit a new constraint. And now we can see a new constraint of 9,000 feet, which is our next waypoint at goals, where we need to also be down to 230 knots. So we're okay there. But now that we're down below 10,000 feet, we've got a few things we need to do. We need to go ahead and, pardon me for a second. We need to go ahead and, we already have the constraints button on. We turn our LS button on, which is right up here as well. we're going to get that on. That's going to bring these dots up here. That's going to kind of help us with our landing once we get there. We also need to go ahead and turn on a couple of lights. We need to turn on our landing lights. You see this turning on a lot of stuff. We're going to get those landing lights going. We also need to go ahead and turn our seatbelt sights back on and go ahead and start turning those electronic devices back on. Alright, look out the window here a little bit more. And now we can go ahead and take a look at our approach checklist. We're getting ready, getting very close to our approach point there, sounder, and so we need to take a look at that approach checklist. Alright, is our barometric pressure reference set? Yes, 30.06. Do we have seatbelts on? Yep. Our minimum set, we have not put our minimums in. We're going to get ready to do that in just a second. Our auto brake is set to low, and our engine mode select is still on normal. We're not going to mess with that at all. So minimums, let's talk about our approach real quick. Let's go into now our MCDU, and this is where the information I asked for earlier, you can see it says enter destination data here. So we're going to go into performance. We're going to go into approach phase, confirm approach phase, and now we need to put this information. The QNH we said was 3006, so we're going to do that. The temp we said was 8 degrees. The wind is 140, and then we do a slash at 5 knots. Do that. Translation level is already in there. Our barrel, remember we told you we needed those two things. We need the barrel, the decision height is 529. And we'll enter that. And we are good to go. We're now on the approach. We've got everything in there that we need to have it in there. So we can go back out. Okay, so now that we've set that into our computer, we are very close to sounder at that 6,000 foot mark. And you can see we're descending down towards it. And then we're going to be on that final approach phase. Into Seattle, so we'll start hitting those different points. We will go ahead and turn on our approach phase, which is right up here. And what that's going to do is that's going to go ahead and look for our localizer and look for our glide slope. And once those are locked on, then we're going to be good to go. You can see here that our speed also is starting to really slow down because now we're in approach mode. So I'm going to go ahead and drop flaps 1. And we're just going to keep an eye on things here. You can see we're getting pretty good, still dropping. I'd like to get a little bit closer to that 5,000, but we have managed to take a little bit of that altitude off, which is what we were looking for. And we'll go ahead and drop flaps 2. And let's just see the next phase. What I was looking for. There we go. Okay, now you can see here on our PFDs that we are locked into the glide slope and the localizer both, so now we're going to not only go correctly from the left to the right, which is the localizer, that's what keeps us on track for that runway 34 left, but we're also going to be on the glide slope, which is going to make sure that we are coming at a steady angle towards the runway until we get close enough that we can just take over at around 500 feet. We take off the autopilot and we go ahead and hand fly the rest of the way in. You see the little purple diamond there. That's going to get us right on that that yellow mark, which is going to put us on the glide slope. That tells us we're right where we need to be. So we're looking good there from an altitude standpoint. And our localizer is going to keep us straight straight towards the runway. So at this point, we're just kind of letting the airplane go. It is slowly descending towards the runway here in Seattle, and we just need to look at a couple different things, a couple different marks right now. When we get a little bit closer to the airport, we're going to do a couple more things, which is we're going to need to go to flaps 3 and then flaps full, and then finally we'll need to also drop our landing gear. It's very important. But right now, we're okay at flaps 2 for the time being. We're maintaining airspeed, we're good. So right now, feeling very nice about this landing so far. And then we'll also start taking a look at some final checklists when we get a little bit closer as well to our landing. So let's just take a look out the window here instead. There you can see the SeaTac out there with our three runways there. About 3-4 left, center, and right. We really wanted the leftmost one again. So that's what we're looking at right now. So coming in nice and easy. See I-5 there out the window, right down the center. And the beautiful Puget Sound off to our left. And way off in the distance there, Lake Washington. And on the other side of SeaTac there, barely visible is Seattle itself. And there's kind of a pedestal. Everything looking good here. We're at flaps 2, you can see. A couple things that we want to go ahead and do at this point. Go ahead and drop flaps 3. And we can actually go ahead and flaps 4 as well. So we're full flaps now. The other thing we need to do is go ahead and arm our ground spoilers. So ground spoilers are now armed. You can see them pop up the white line there. Okay. Everything's looking stable right now. Feeling pretty good. Maintaining good airspeed. We're looking at an airspeed at right around that 134 mark, which was what we had inputted there, what it showed when we put in our approach phase of that's our landing speed. That's what we want to maintain for our landing here. And so we're feeling pretty good about this approach right now. We're going to have our last mark here at Jalon.
2,500.
We wanted to be at 2,300, I believe, if I remember the chart correctly. But we're right on the mark here. When you look at that glide slope, you see when you see that purple diamond being perfectly intersected by the yellow line, we are dead on our glide slope. And then you can also see our speed is looking perfect. The yellow line right in the center of that purple triangle, so our airspeed is right where it needs to be. So again, looking at a nice stable approach right now. We are now almost at that last mark, so we're getting ready to drop our landing gear. And then we'll go ahead and do our landing checklist. Alright, at our last mark, we're 6 nautical miles outside of the airfield. So we'll go ahead and put that landing gear down. And you can hear it gets a little noisy. And we'll go ahead and set our auto brakes to low. Chime our cabin up here. It's that chime all just to let them know we are on that final. And now we can go ahead and run our landing checklist. Our landing checklist says that we need to check our ECAM here. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. Sorry, excuse me. That's the button I'm looking for. And here you can see our ECAM is all green, no blue. So landing no blue, our cabin is ready. Our landing checklist is complete. We are ready to land. So let's take a look back out that window. As that runway is rapidly approaching. At about 1,500 feet of barometric altitude, and we have about 1,200. Look at the difference there. There at the bottom in the orange, you can see that is our radar altimeter, so that is our radar level above ground. You can see it's different than our barometric altitude, so when that radio altimeter gets to about 500-600 feet is when I'm going to take it off of autopilot and go ahead and bring us in the rest of the way manually. So real soon, so let's take a look out here. We also see our PAPI lights out there. We see 2 white, 2 red. We want them that way. If you get a 3rd white or a 4th white, it means you're too high. 3rd red or a 4th red means you're too low. Oh, here we go. We're at about 700, 600, 700 feet. 600. All right, we're going to go ahead and take it off autopilot. Clear that master. And we are now manually flying. Straighten her out a little bit. paying attention to those lights. I'm also looking at my instruments too as well, trying to keep that purple diamond intersected with that yellow line. Those lights are really what I'm kind of looking at, and also just trying to keep our center on that center line. Good, just like that.
100 above. 100. 50. 40. Minimum.
Flare.
20. Retard.
Idle.
10. 5.
Full reverse. A little bit crooked, but not too bad. Keep it just a little bit off. But now we're back to center. Alright, we're at full reverse here. We're not applying any brakes right now. We've got plenty of runway here. There's no need for it. If we needed to, we could. We're okay. 60 knots, so I'm going to go back to idle. Alright, looking good. At this point, we'll go ahead and exit right here. Off this taxiway, give her a little bit of throttle. What we need to do is go ahead and exit this runway as decently as possible, get past that hold short point again, and at that point we'll go ahead and contact ATC ground, and we will get taxi clearance to our gate. But there's also a few things we need to do as well. So we're going to stop here, throw our parking brake on, and let's take a look at what we need to do. We do have an after landing checklist. Let's take a look there. It says, do we have our radar and our predictive wind shear off? Well, that was one of the things I was going to do here. So I've got my little procedures that I need to do after I've landed, and here is what I need to do. First of all, I need to go ahead and disarm those ground spoilers. We don't need those anymore. We want to set our flaps all the way back to 0. Don't need flaps on the ground anymore. And then we're going to go ahead and turn off that TCAS and turn off our predictive wind shear and our weather radar. And then we need to go ahead and go up to here, and we need to turn our APU on, because we are going to need that here on the ground, especially once we get to the gate. Okay, we can also go ahead and turn off our landing lights, but since we're going to be taxiing to the gate, we want to turn our taxi lights on. And then lastly, we want to go ahead and check and make sure our brakes are okay. We can turn our auto brakes back off, and then we look at this brake fan light right here and make sure that our brakes aren't overheating. If for some reason they were hot, we could turn that brake fan on. The other way we can look at that too is by going here and looking at these wheels here, and then looking at the eCam and looking at those temperatures, and they look nice and good. They're all in the green, no problems there. Right now we want to, though, is we're going to keep that APU button on, because I want to see where my APU is once it's all fired up, and it's actually all the way up. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn the bleed air on, which is this button up here again. So bleed air is on, and we are ready to taxi. So right now we would go ahead and contact air traffic ground and ask for permission to taxi to our gate. In this flight plan, I had asked for gate November 6, and we'll go ahead and taxi to gate November 6. They would give us instructions on which taxiways to take. I fly into SeaTac quite a bit. This is where I live right now, and so I fly in and out of this airport a lot, and so I'm quite familiar with where that gate is, so I'm not overly concerned with needing directions right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and we'll step away from the video for a couple minutes. It does take a couple minutes to taxi to the gate, no reason to sit here and watch that. And then once we get to the gate, we'll pull in, we'll connect to the jetway, and we will go through the procedures on after parking and how to shut down the aircraft back to complete no power once again. So we'll see you in just a second. Okay, we are very close to gate November 6, and so as we get a little bit closer, one of the things that I did would just be the nice thing to do is turn off the portable devices sign so that people could have used their electronics before now. I forgot to do that. We usually do that once I'm there at the taxi. And I did misspeak. I did say November 6th, so I apologize. We were actually assigned to gate November 7 when I looked back at my my plan. So we're going to go ahead and pull into November 7 here. us to kind of follow this. Okay, you can see the sign up here. It's one of the things. I've got a little extension on SeaTac, an add-on, and so it shows me where I'm actually parking here, kind of guiding me in. I'm not the best at this, I'm going to be honest with you. And 20 feet, 16, a little bit rough on my brakes there, and right there. Stop, tells me to stop. So it's kind of a cool little, I've got an add-on that gives me a much nicer SeaTac, and one of the things that it does is these really super cool electronic signs that you're seeing that help guide you into the actual parking spots at each gate. I think is really neat. I'm still kind of learning it because while I said I do fly in and out of SeaTac quite a bit, I've only had this add-on for just a little bit, and I've only used it. This might be maybe the third, fourth time that I've used the little guide there, so it's kind of cool. I'm getting used to it though, and so I'm not great at it quite yet. All right, so now that I'm at the gate, first of all, I need to turn off my taxi lights so I'm not blinding my guys down there on the ground. Do not need those taxi lights anymore, so you can see I've turned those two off, those two switches there. And now what we need to do next is go ahead and turn our engines off, because I'm sorry, let me go back up here. We're going to turn the beacon light off because we're getting ready to turn the engine lights off. So let's turn that beacon light off. Now let's go back down to the pedestal here. I'm going to go ahead and turn both engines off, engine 1 and engine 2. Now those will go down really, really fast. Okay. And I want to go ahead and look over at my fly pad here and double check our ground services. Make sure we have a ground power unit available because we want to connect to that. So let's go up here and let's connect to that ground power. Okay. We do have our APU running, but we want to connect to that ground power as well. Okay. We're going to go back to the fly pad here because the next few things we need to do, oh, pardon me, sorry, should have done this while I was up here. We also need to go ahead and turn our fuel pumps off. So I'll turn all 6 of those fuel pumps off as well. All right, there we go. Now we can go back to our fly pad. This is how we're going to, again, talk to the ground. So we need a few things. First of all, we need to go ahead and connect our jet bridge. Let's go get a baggage truck rolling, get our catering truck and our fuel truck over here as well. So let's take a look. There comes our, all right, good, we're all connected up. And if we were to look at our eCam again here and choose doors, you'll see that our cargo doors are open. This is for the baggage. We have the cabin door over here where our jetway is connected, and this other cabin where our catering truck is connected to, right? So you can see that those doors are currently open. All right, so the next thing we need to do is go ahead and unload these passengers. Let's get them off the plane, and then we can shut down. So we'll go to payload, and this is where we would unload the passengers. I accidentally hit this button just a minute ago, so I'm going to show you again. So you have all the passengers and all the cargo here, and then all you do is just hit this another button right here, which is to deboard them, right? And again, you can do this instantaneously. You can do it fast or in real time. And again, for deboarding, there's really no point in it unless you really want to sit here for 10 or 15 minutes while everybody gets off the plane. I do it instantaneously, so we'll go ahead and deboard. Ask if you really want to do that. Yep, I sure do. Now, all the passengers and all their luggage and everything is now off the plane. Okay. So we're now go back to that overhead panel, and this is where we're going to finish off the aircraft. We're ready to shut down. So the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is we'll shut off our ADIRs. Shut off those avionics. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we can go ahead and turn the crew oxygen back off. We're not going to need that anymore. There we go. We're going to go ahead and turn that APU off now. We are connected to ground power, so we're okay. We'll get rid of the APU. And the APU bleed air. We're not going to do that anymore. We can go ahead and turn off our emergency exit lights. Our seatbelt lights. We had already turned off the electronic lights. No electronics light. So at this point, all we're doing is we are waiting for the APU to fire down. Now, so let me show you what we're looking at here for that. On that bottom panel there, we're going to go ahead and select APU here. And what we're doing is we're waiting for that end percentage. Right now it's at 100%. It takes a few minutes for the APU to completely shut off. And then where it says flap open, we need for that to disappear. Once that disappears, we can shut the last few things in the aircraft off, but it does take a couple minutes for it to power down. So we're going to go ahead and pause this video so you don't have to sit here and wait and watch that. And once it starts shutting the rest of the way down, we'll bring you back into this, do the last couple little things there is to do, and then we're done with this video. Thank you. So we're almost there. Back in just a second. Okay, you can see now that the APU is going down rather quickly. Once it starts shutting down, it shuts down pretty fast. When it gets down to around 7% or so, 7-8%, somewhere right in there, you'll see that flap open message disappear, and that means it's shut down far enough that we can go ahead and finish completing shutting the aircraft down. There it goes, it disappeared. So we are okay to go ahead and complete the rest of our procedures here. Let's go back up to our panel, and we'll finish off the last couple things. So we need to go ahead and disconnect from that external power. We don't need this right now. Okay, you can hear a lot of things start to go away. We'll go ahead and turn off those strobe lights. Go ahead and turn off the navigational and logo lights. And that just leaves us with our batteries. That is the only thing we have left on in the aircraft, is those two batteries there in the middle. And once those are disconnected, everything's off, and we are completely back without power and right where we started at the very beginning of part 1. So we'll turn those batteries off. And we are completely cold and dark again. All right, we are back to right where we started. We'll quickly do our last checklist, securing the aircraft. Oxygen is off. Emergency exit lights are off. And batteries are off. Our secure aircraft, we are done. So our last checklist is done. We are completely ready to go. We can exit the aircraft at this point and be done. Again, hey, I really appreciate the support, getting some comments online. I really like that. Thank you again. If you could like and subscribe if you're seeing these for the first time, I'd really appreciate it. We've got all 3 parts of this video done now. We had it from the cold and dark start all the way through the taxi, the takeoff, the cruise, and then now our descent and landing here into Seattle. Finally, I've got another video coming out here in just a couple days that is going to show the pre-flight procedures that are not necessarily within the sim. So this is when we go into SimBrief, create a flight plan, and then how you import that into the simulator. So people are asking that. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm going to show you the way that I do it because there's different programs you can use. And so I'm just going to show you the way that I do it, which is using SimBrief, which is one of the more popular ways to do that. So we're going to have that. Also, on coming up in about a week on February 1st, I'm going to have my first collaboration video that I'm doing. And so this is going to be a video with, actually it's my brother. He's got a great YouTube channel called G Couple with him and his wife. They do fantastic travel videos. I believe they have around 50,000 subscribers on his channel, which is amazing. And he recently went on a trip to Bora Bora. And so he's used my landing into Bora Bora to make a collaboration video of between the two of us, and that will be premiering early in the morning on February 1st, so I'd love you for you to check that out. Once again, if you have any ideas of where you'd like to see me fly, if there's something you'd like to see when it comes to the aircraft, or if there's a place you'd like to see, I love doing the scenery videos. My one from Seattle to Portland I really enjoyed doing, so if there's a place from a place to place you'd like to see, and we can do a quick little 3 to 4 to 5 minute video showing some highlights of a trip from one place to another, I'd love to do that for you. Leave me a comment, leave me a like and a subscribe, and I would love to do those for you. In the meantime, we'll get those next couple videos out to you, and then we'll see what happens next. Thank you so much for supporting A320 Flight Sim, and you have a great day.